Hey guys, tonight we're stepping onto moonlit marble paths where hedges twist like a living labyrinth in an Andalusian garden. Though you probably won't survive wandering this maze if you lose your way in the first turn. You drag your feet across cool, mosaic-tilled floors, scented with blossoming orange trees, the air alive with a whisper of jasmine and the distant drip of fountain water. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you are and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step forward, tracing fingers lightly over clipped cypress hedges that stand sentinel on either side, their fragrant needles tickling your skin like nature's own ASMR. The moon casts silver lacework shadows on the ground, and every turn feels deliberate, an invitation to pause for reflection or risk spinning your mental compass. In 1492, the Treaty of Granada marked the end of Muslim rule in the region, a popular historical event that forever changed these garden walls. Tonight, you're retracing footsteps once whispered by Moorish princes and Nasrid gardeners. A strange fact few people know, early gardeners sometimes filled moss-lined niches with rosewater, so each footstep triggered an invisible perfume cloud like a botanical whoopee cushion, but much fancier. Historians still debate whether this scented trick was meant as a meditative indulgence or a secret method to mask the scent of irrigation canals. As you wander deeper, you hear the gentle burble of marble aqueducts just beneath the surface, guiding water in a soft, rhythmic pulse that calms your heartbeat. It's reminiscent of spa music layered under Gregorian chants, except here, the only playlist you need is the echo of trickling streams and distant owl calls. You catch a faint smell of wet stone, a grounding aroma that feels oddly luxurious, as though you've swapped your mattress for a slab of cooled terrazzo. A light joke flutters through your mind. It's more relaxing than any bubble bath, and at least you don't have to worry about accidentally dropping your phone in the tub. Each hedge-lined corridor narrows and widens like inhale and exhale, teaching you to breathe in rhythm with the garden's hidden hydraulics. You pause at a small alcove where a pigeon perches on a carved niche, tilting its head as if judging your route choices. Imagine Yelp reviews written by birds complete with star ratings for birdseed availability. In that moment, you realize that these maze paths were never mere ornamentation. They were deliberate channels for contemplation designed to slow your pace and sharpen your mind, even cooler than your smartwatch's meditation app, and infinitely more Instagram-worthy. You find yourself stepping lightly as though the hedges are nudging you to notice each detail, a single silver leaf fluttering in the breeze, a lizard's quick dart across sun-warmed tiles, the soft echo of your own breath. It's a multi-sensory meditation chamber, centuries older than any wellness trend, reminding you that genuine reflection doesn't come bundled with a monthly subscription. And as you continue down the next turn, hedge walls, towering fountains murmuring, you realize that this winding journey through history and scent is just beginning. You lean deeper into the hedged corridor, feeling the clipped cypress walls pressing in like companions guiding your steps. And you remember that these reflective paths date back to the 9th century, when Moorish gardeners first hewed these labyrinthine channels from living walls of laurel and myrtle. Back then, Cordoba was humming with scholarly life under the Umayyad Emirate, and in 936, Abd al-Rahman III commissioned the grand palace city of Madinat al-Zahra, an event so monumental that courtiers whispered its marble columns rivaled Solomon's temple. Those early gardeners didn't merely snip hedges for show, they carved intentional roots to slow wanderers' pace, forcing you to pause, ponder, and in their world draw closer to the divine. It's kind of like your mindfulness app, except instead of tapping, start your tiptoeing through scented corridors under your own 2 feet. As you glide past a juniper arch, you notice faint pink droplets clinging to the leaves, rose water drizzled when the gardens were first laid out. A strange fact few tourists ever see outside of VIP sunset tours. Those droplets were more than mere decoration. They released a gentle cloud of perfume with each breeze turning every turn into a blossoming surprise. Imagine walking through your living room and stepping on a scented sticker that wafts lavender, only here it's hundreds of rose petals worth of aroma, and at least there's no risk of staining your carpet. Historians still debate whether this scented trick was primarily a meditative indulgence for sultans or a clever ploy to mask the earthy tang of irrigation ditches. You slow your breathing to match the drip, drip of rose water, feeling each inhalation draw jasmine and myrtle essences into your chest. The narrow path widens briefly at a tiled terrace where a low fountain murmurs over zelige patterns, tiny green stars, and interlocking polygons that seem impossible for human hands. It almost feels like someone transferred a fractal screensaver into real life, only with the added comfort of cool water trickling over your fingertips when you dip them in. A light joke nudges your mind. This is definitely more photogenic than that time you tried recreating a Pinterest garden and ended up with soggy begonias. Beyond the fountain, you drift into a shaded grotto where sunlight filters through latticework in honeycomb shapes, casting moving hexagons on the cobblestones, an ASMR delight that makes you want to close your eyes and follow the shifting patterns like a modern-day sensory meditation. You drag a fingertip across the mosaic's tiny tiles, each one chilled by subterranean channels carrying snowmelt from the Sierra Nevada peaks. This sensory interplay of light, shade, and temperature is so carefully choreographed that you'd swear it came packaged with a spa robe and cucumber slices for your eyes. Yet all it cost was the patience of meticulous gardeners who spent years planting, pruning, and perfecting each corridor's mood. A sudden rustle draws your attention to a cluster of dwarf orange trees whose blossoms tremble with each passing breeze, releasing citrus notes that prick your nostrils like tiny, zesty pinches. You quip that it's like standing next to someone peeling an orange at full volume, only here you're happily assaulted by fragrance instead of startled by the sound. Those hedges weren't random. They formed living walls framing each sensory chamber, guiding you to a mental sanctuary as much as a physical one. Historians still debate whether these hedges encoded secret messages, celestial maps, or Quranic verses hidden in their geometry, or served purely as tranquil boundaries between the world outside and the inner sanctum of reflection. Further in the path dips, and you feel the ground slope just enough to tilt your perspective, a subtle trick to slow your stride without you noticing, akin to a theme park ride that's more about the illusion of motion than the actual drop. Here, the garden designers borrowed from hydraulic principles first used in Roman villas, channeling water beneath the paving to raise humidity and cool the courtyard air. You inhale that slightly damp, earthy scent and wonder if your bathroom ever felt this luxurious during steam shower mode. A modern comparison zips through your thoughts. It's like turning on a smart humidifier set to tropical rainforest and getting a full 5-star resort ambiance in your own home. You emerge onto a sunlit terrace where an elegant arcade frames a view of distant olive groves and rolling hills, and you pause to take it all in. The bright contrast between shadowed corridors and open sky feels like toggling dark mode on your phone. Only this transition tunes your soul instead of saving battery life. Beneath your feet, the tessellated floors form a subtle arrow pointing toward a hidden alcove ahead, where a stone bench invites you to sit and reflect on your journey so far. You chuckle at the thought that even a lost tourist might end up exactly where they need to be. No GPS required, just centuries of horticultural wisdom. As you settle onto the bench, brushing rosewater-kissed petals aside, you realize these earliest maze paths weren't about getting somewhere. They were about arriving within yourself. Each hedge fountain and scented whisper was a deliberate nudge toward introspection, a medieval wellness retreat, before such things were cool. And though modern life brags about instant gratification delivery apps promising sushi in 10 minutes, these labyrinths taught a different lesson. Patience yields clarity. With that in mind, you rise, inhale one last burst of orange blossom, and step forward into the next winding corridor, ready for the story to continue. You pause mid-step as the faint murmur of water draws your attention deeper into the maze. Beneath the dappled moonlight, you hear marble fountains gurgle in the shadows, each spout's gentle trickle echoing off hedged corridors like a whispered secret. You lean closer, fingertips grazing the cool stone basin, and feel the water's silky tremor under your touch. It's an ASMR dreamscape. Imagine swapping your shampoo commercials for this live stream of nature's spa playlist, no earbuds required and absolutely zero buffering. In the time of the Reconquista, 1492, marked the Treaty of Granada, when Muslim rule in Andalusia finally yielded to Ferdinand and Isabella. That seismic shift rippled through these gardens, transforming private sultanate retreats into royal Spanish palaces overnight. Yet the fountains remained their watercourses rerouted rather than drained, as if the architects knew that contemplation couldn't be vanquished by conquest. You can almost taste the layered history on your tongue, as crisp as the citrus notes drifting from nearby orange trees. You follow a narrow channel carved into patterned zellige tiles, emerald greens and sapphire blues that glint beneath pale lantern glow, and watch as water dances along its path. The channel's gentle slope makes the current swirl in tiny eddies, each one catching a glint of moonbeam before spilling over into the next basin. It's like watching a row of dominoes flicker in sequence, but with aquatic flair. You quip that it's more hypnotic than any Instagram boomerang and infinitely more soothing than your neighbor's rickety birdhouse fountain. By the second basin, you notice a strange fact. Some early fountains were designed with concealed pulleys that lifted water from hidden cisterns, powered not by pumps, but by acorn-fed water wheels. Those wooden wheels, encrusted with moss, turned silently beneath the surface, whispering kinetic lullabies to anyone who'd listen. Historians still debate whether these water wheels were introduced by engineers who fled Constantinople in the 13th century, or invented locally by Nasrid artisans seeking a reliable water source. Either way, the result is a seamless cascade that feels both ancient and futuristic. You let your foot dangle over the edge toes, brushing the surface, and shiver as you taste the coolness rising up your ankle. It reminds you of stepping into a shallow reflexology pool at a luxury resort. Except here, the spa charges no admission and comes with free jasmine-scented breezes. You inhale deeply, drawing in a heady cocktail of wet stone orange blossom and a soft hint of earth that could only come from centuries-old underground aqueducts. There's a nuance to this scent that outperforms any artisanal candle. No synthetic wax could capture the layered complexity of living history. Ahead, a low archway frames a circular fountain crowned by a delicate cupola. Water arcs through the air in four symmetrical jets, landing in a star-shaped basin mirrored by the tiled floor. You step into the basin's shallow rim, each footstep sending ripples that refract lantern light into dancing prisms on the surrounding walls. In that moment, you're both audience and performer, conducting a watery light show with every shift of your weight. It's like being handed the world's quietest laser pointer, only more delightful and decidedly less likely to get you banned from conferences. Your eyes follow a narrow spout carved into a marble column, its stream gurgling directly into your cupped hands. You lift the water to your lips and sip its flavor is impossibly pure, stripped of chlorine and medication and infused instead with calcium from ancient stone. It tastes like history itself, crisp, mineral-rich, and carrying a faint trace of rosewater from last night's irrigation. You swallow and feel a subtle jolt of clarity sharpen your senses as though the garden is offering you an elixir of reflection. A light joke pops into your head, better than any flavored water brand and zero plastic waste. As you emerge from the central fountain's embrace, you notice that each subsequent basin is tuned to a different pitch. The first hums low and sonorous, the next rings out with a brighter chime, and the third whispers in a high, tinkling cadence. This acoustic choreography guides your mood from grounded contemplation to lifted introspection without a single word spoken. It's as if the garden itself curated a wellness track list tailor-made for your wandering soul. You drift past a recessed alcove where a miniature waterfall spills over a curved ledge, its gentle cascade muffled by trailing ivies. You lean in head tilted and let the soft patter mask the hum of your own thoughts. It feels like meditating inside a snow globe, suspended in a private moment of serenity, while the world beyond the hedges spins frantically. A playful thought crosses your mind. You can't get this level of privacy at any commercial meditation retreat, especially not one where your only neighbors are silent hedges and courteous nightingales. That nightingale's song flutters through the hedges, tiny liquid notes that drift above the fountain's rumble. You follow it to a small domed niche where moonlight pools over carved arabesques and a concealed bubbler murmurs beneath a concealed grate. You press your ear against the carved stone and feel the vibration thrum through your jawbone, almost like a low-frequency massage for your entire skull. If you ever doubt the power of ancient engineering, just remember that these hidden fountains could lull an entire sultanate into whispered reverie without the slightest mechanical whine. In the deeper shadows, you spot a half-hidden basin lined with emerald tiles depicting fish and lotus flowers. Water seeps through tiny perforations in the bronze lid above, creating a soft dribble, exactly like fingertips tapping on a laptop. Only this is organic, unhurried, and impossibly soothing. You tap your own fingertips on the basin's rim and start a playful echo, matching the drum roll drips with your own improvised beat. It's absurdly fun. Digital people pay for rhythm apps when all they need is a mossy basin and a curious heart. The path widens into a moonlit courtyard where fountain carvers sculpted waterbirds that spout into reflecting pools. You stand at the edge and see your own face refracted in the pool's surface, framed by lily pads and framed by swirling ripples. It's like a medieval selfie minus the smartphone glare, just you, your reflection, and the soft chorus of water conducting its own nocturnal orchestra. You reach out and part the water with your fingertip, distorting the image into a liquid mosaic of self and sky. It's a fleeting reminder that reflection isn't just visual, it's emotional and mental, too, rippling outward from a single moment of awareness. As you step away from the fountain's edge, you feel a profound calm settle over you, as though the water has washed away not just dust, but mental clutter. You breathe in the moist air one last time, letting the sound of marble channels lull your mind into quiet reverie. With each subsequent turn, you carry the fountain's memory in your bones, their patter guiding you forward softer than footsteps, yet more resonant than any echo. And in the hush that follows, you're ready to wander on heart and mind aligned with the garden's secret current of reflection. You step forward as the moonlight filters through the lattice of cypress and orange hedges, their silhouettes forming living corridors that guide your every move. Those tall, columnar cypresses, planted centuries ago under the watchful eye of Nasrid gardeners, stand like silent philosophers, their verdant robes trimmed so precisely they could give your barber serious complex. You press a hand against the cool needles, inhaling a green resinous aroma that feels like breathing in morning dew compressed into forest coffee. It's oddly invigorating, especially compared to your usual cup of Java no caffeine crash here, just pure botanical pep. A popular historical event echoes in your mind in 1492 when Boabdil, the last emir of Granada, surrendered the Alhambra's keys to Ferdinand and Isabella. Those same hedges bore witness to a crossroads of cultures, Islamic artistry meeting Spanish Gothic fervor. You can almost hear the hush that fell over the gardens as the keys clicked in the lock, a moment so charged that later poets compared it to sunrise cracking open a dark sky. Tonight, you're retracing those footsteps, only instead of handing over keys, you're handing your senses over to these living walls of foliage. As you turn a corner, you notice the trimmed edges glint with a fine sheen. You lean closer and realize the gardeners once massaged each cut with scented oils made from crushed orange blossoms. Strange fact, they mixed a drop of orange essential oil with beeswax and dabbed it into each pruning wound, not only sealing the hedge against pests, but infusing every future breeze with a whisper of citrus. It's like your hedges got the world's fanciest haircut, complete with aftershave spritz. Historians still debate whether this fragrant finish was meant as a luxury for palace visitors or a covert method to mask the smell of wood smoke from nightly torchlit strolls. You trail your fingertips along a hedge seam where two different species meet: cypress on one side, fragrant orange on the other, and marvel at the gardener's precision. It's akin to watching a barber fade from buzz cut to slick pompadour in a single clip. Only here, the transition is measured in living branches instead of clippers. You can't help but quip that if modern chefs had this level of plating finesse, fancy restaurants would trim their amuse-bouche into hedge mazes before serving them on Instagram. Yet these hedges owe their shape to patient hands and an obsession with geometry so intense it would make your spreadsheet-loving friend weep with envy. Beyond the hedge wall, a low alcove reveals a hidden bench, carved from a single block of marble. You sink down, hugging the bench's smooth edge, and let the scented breeze wash over you. A light joke flutters through your mind. You've paid for meditation pillows that cost more than your last weekend getaway. But they never smelled like tangy citrus oil whenever you exhaled. Here, every inhale carries a chorus of aromas: jasmine, cypress sap, and that soft orange zing that harmonize into a natural, no-subscription-required wellness symphony. As you rise, you notice a pattern carved into the hedge tops, a subtle zigzag that mimics the Alhambra's famed muqarna's vaulting. It's almost like the gardeners encoded architectural motifs into the green canopy, turning living walls into three-dimensional mosaics. You imagine sending a text message in code, "Hey, meet me under the muqarna's maze," and replacing your phone's autocorrect with pruning shears. Yet this wasn't mere whimsy. It was thoughtful art, interwoven with faith in science. Historians still debate whether these hedge patterns encoded secret messages, spiritual verses lifted from the Quran's geometric design, or simply reflected the era's obsession with mathematical harmony. A sudden rustle draws your attention to a pair of nightingales flitting between branches. Their soft trills bounce off the hedges, transforming the living walls into acoustic chambers. You pause and cup your ear to a nearby cypress trunk, feeling the tiny vibration of bird song travel through wood grain. It's like placing your hand on the back of a speaker at a concert, sensing the music more than hearing it. Only here the speaker is a 1,000-year-old tree. You grin at the absurdity of cuddling hedges for a sonic boost, but admit it's far more effective than any Bluetooth speaker with static problems. Moving on, you find a deeper recess where the hedges narrow to a tunnel barely wide enough for your shoulders. You feel the walls pressing closer, your heartbeat sinking to the tightened space. It's a deliberate exercise in sensory focus. By constricting your field of vision and space, the garden forces you to center your thoughts. A modern-day parallel zips through your head. It's like toggling your phone into do not disturb mode, but in botanical form. No notifications, just green walls nudging you toward inner calm. In that hush, you spot a hidden niche where gardeners once placed small earthenware vessels filled with crushed lavender. You lean in, trace the vessel's rim, and inhale a gentle waft of purple blossoms that tucks itself between the sharper orange notes. It's a layered sensory chamber, each fragrance vying for your attention like different audio tracks in a playlist. And unlike any music stream, these scents loop naturally, no subscription fee, no ads, just pure, curated calm. Beyond the niche, the corridor opens into a sunlit glade where the hedges give way to a circular mosaic platform. You stand at its center, turning slowly as the hedge walls rise and fall around you like ocean waves. Each subtle dip in height feels like a breath inhale as the hedge climbs exhale as it falls. You quip that modern fitness trackers would kill to monitor your hedge elevation change, yet here you're training your mind, not your step count. As you complete your circle, you glimpse a weathered gardener's shed tucked behind a final row of hedges. Moss grows along its stone walls, and a single pruning shear rests on a shelf. Blades dulled by time, yet still glinting with purpose. You pick up the shears, feeling their weight and balance, and imagine the countless snips those blades made, shaping every corridor you've walked. It's the tool behind the magic, the humble instrument that turned raw hedges into contemplative cathedrals of green. Stepping away, you breathe in one last aromatic burst citrus resin lavender and feel your mind sharpen like a leaf's newly trimmed edge. These living walls, sculpted with oiled geometry and devotion, taught you to notice subtleties, the way scents drift on a breeze, how shadows lengthen in tight spaces, and how silence can press against your senses like a soft blanket. As you drift into the next winding path, you carry with you the soft rustle of cypress needles and the faint tang of orange oil, a sensory map etched into memory, guiding you ever onward through the maze of reflection. You step beneath an ornate archway carved with intricate arabesques, and immediately the air feels heavier, history pooling around you like the water in the fountains you passed earlier. This is the heart of the Alhambra's Royal Labyrinth, commissioned by Sultan Yusuf in the mid-14th century. During a lavish ceremony that still echoes in the palace chronicles, court poets recited odes beneath torchlight, young pages scattered rose petals as the Sultan first walked these winding paths, and musicians played so softly you could hear the whisper of silk against marble. You trace your fingertips over a guardrail of inlaid mosaic tiny tesserae in cobalt and gold and feel a thrill of connection. After centuries of feet rain and conquest, those tiles still glitter under your touch. A strange fact few visitors know. During a 20th century excavation, archaeologists unearthed hidden fragments of a second older mosaic beneath the visible floor shards that depict mythic beasts and interlaced crescents, hinting at a layout far more complex than today's pared-down design. Historians still debate whether its original layout formed a perfect star or a labyrinthine spiral meant to mirror the cosmos. You follow a narrow corridor under a trellis of vine-draped columns, each turn revealing glimpses of hidden alcoves where gardeners once placed gilded lanterns for midnight reflections. The scent of orange blossom drifts to your nostrils as you recall how Yusuf insisted on reading philosophy here by the glow of suspended brass lamps, a popular anecdote that paints him as both warrior and scholar. You bend to examine a low fountain rimmed with chipped tiles that reveal layers of paint vermilion peeking from beneath emerald, a time capsule of royal tastes and faded ceremonies. As you stand, your foot brushes over a fragment of that buried mosaic, barely visible against the worn marble. You pause, half expecting the tiles to hum with stories of past processions and whispered confidences. The labyrinth's hedged walls rise around you, taller here and clipped so precisely that sunlight dapples the floor in shifting patterns, an ever-changing invitation to mindfulness. Each hedge turn feels like a new stanza in an epic poem written in living green. You slow your breath, matching the contemplative pace of courtly processions that once traced this same route: nobles in silken robes, diplomats clutching letters of alliance, scholars carrying scrolls of poetry. The path narrows, and you press close to a hedge painted with the faded outline of a star, a trace of the original design uncovered during that groundbreaking dig. It's as though the garden itself still holds the memory of those early steps, waiting for you to unlock its secrets. Guided by flickering torch shadows, you emerge onto a sunlit terrace overlooking the city, the labyrinth's twisting corridors receding behind you like a dream. You feel a subtle thrill in knowing that every hedge, every tile, and every buried shard you pass through was part of a grand design, one that blended art, architecture, and spiritual reflection in a single continuous journey. And as you inhale the cool morning air scented with orange and earth, you carry with you the resonance of Yusuf the Hajj court, the echo of that inaugural ceremony, and the enduring mystery of a layout still debated by historians today. You step into a broader swath of the maze where the hedges part just enough to reveal a canopy of olive and fig trees overhead, their leaves whispering secrets as the breeze stirs them. Remember that rustle you noticed in the previous part, like silk purring against stone. Here, each footfall on the flagstones feels measured as though the garden itself expects you to walk with purpose, not speed. This was no mere game of hide and seek. It was a mental pilgrimage, a walking meditation carved into living walls centuries ago, so that every turn, pause, and reversal mirrored an inner journey toward clarity. Imagine a procession of devotees in the early 1500s, cloaked in simple wool and bearing candles, inching through these same corridors during the annual Romeria del Rocío, a popular historical event that drew pilgrims from across Andalusia to honor the Virgin of El Rocío. They moved in hushed reverence, each step a prayer, each hedge-line twist an act of penance. And you walking these paths tonight, feel that same slow convergence of body and spirit, guided by the measured cadence of your own breath. It's like following Google Maps for your soul, no rerouting required, but you'll still appreciate the gentle reminders to turn left ahead from nature itself. As you advance, the ground tilts imperceptibly, nudging you to lean into your stride, subtly shifting your center of gravity. It's a deliberate trick of design by altering the grade by fractions of an inch. The garden architects forced your muscles to engage differently, warding off mindless wandering. You might compare it to your smartwatch nudging you to stand after an hour of scrolling. Except here, the nudge is an entire hillside of cobblestones. A light joke pops into your mind. You'd kill for that kind of gentle posture correction in your office chair. Along the way, you pass a small alcove where the hedges curve inward, forming a private niche just big enough for one person to stand in solitude. Inside, a carved stone bench awaits its surface, worn smooth by centuries of kneeling pilgrims. You lean back and close your eyes, letting the scent of crushed rosemary and thyme seep into your senses, unexpected herbal notes contrasting with the orange blossom and jasmine you've grown accustomed to. It's like switching from a familiar playlist to an ambient forest soundscape, refreshing, grounding, and infinitely more natural than any white noise machine. Here for a moment, you're cocooned in green, free from the chatter of the outside world. You rise and continue deeper, noting a strange fact hidden beneath the mossy tiles of certain niches. Gardeners once concealed small clay burners filled with aromatic resins, frankincense, myrrh, even crushed sandalwood, so that when pilgrims knelt to pray, they'd also breathe in holy smoke, intensifying their devotion. Historians still debate whether these burners were widespread devotional tools or reserved for palace insiders alone, but the idea of tiny temples tucked into living walls feels perfectly in step with the garden's ethos of surprise and reflection. Ahead, the path narrows to a single file lane framed by boxwood hedges trimmed into gentle waves. The space seems almost claustrophobic, heightening your focus on the rough texture of the leaves brushing your shoulders. Each gust of wind carries a chorus of scents: rosemary from the niche lingering citrus from the orange trees, and the faintest echo of lavender you smelled earlier, layered like a carefully blended perfume. You catch yourself smiling. Your morning shower never offered such a complex fragrance profile. As you round a bend, you hear the soft thud of wooden clogs on stone, a distant echo that might be your own footsteps if you weren't so attuned to the garden's acoustic nuances. In some medieval pilgrimage accounts, walkers described hearing phantom footsteps trailing them through similar mazes, mistaking fellow pilgrims for spirits of the departed. You half expect a glimpse of a ghostly figure around the next hedge, only to find a lone sparrow perched on a carved marble balustrade, its beak opening in a gentle chirp. A light joke occurs if the garden wanted to spook you. It could at least employ proper actors instead of borrowed bird calls. You press on until you reach an open glade where a low circular wall encloses a ring of wild herbs, mint, sage, and lemon balm that grow unchecked under the moonlight. Pilgrims were encouraged to pause here, tearing off a leaf to crush between their fingers and inhale the vapor as a form of benediction. You pluck a mint leaf, rub it gently between your fingertips, and draw its cool vapor into your lungs. Sharp, bright, and unexpectedly invigorating. It's like sucking on a piece of peppermint gum after a long day. The sudden zing jolts you fully awake, reminding you that reflection requires both stillness and alertness. In that circle, the hedges are low enough to gaze out at the star-strewn sky, reminding you of the fountain basin reflections from the previous sections. Both serve as portals, one in water and one in foliage, to see the heavens mirrored around you. You tilt your head back, inhale the scented air, and catch sight of Cassiopeia's W in the sky. It anchors you in cosmic scale, a silent nod to travelers of every era who looked upward for guidance. Historians still debate whether Nasrid gardeners intentionally aligned this pilgrimage glade with celestial markers, or if the star patterns simply felt serendipitously resonant. When you rise again, the rough stone underfoot gives way to polished marble, and you realize you're approaching the glimmering depths of a sunken courtyard beyond. The garden's designers wanted each segment of this mental pilgrimage to crescendo like movements in a symphony, guiding devotees from introspection to illumination. It's like your favorite movie building tension toward a reveal. Except here, the reveal is a courtyard awash in the soft glow of moonlit fountains and surrounded by privacy hedges that block out the world. As you step into that courtyard, you feel a gentle shift in atmosphere, the hedged walls open up, and you're greeted by a circle of marble benches facing a central pool. This is the culmination of the journey, a contemplative arena where pilgrims once gathered to offer prayers, share whispered reflections, or simply sit in companionable silence. You cross the courtyard on tiptoe, the marble cool beneath your bare feet, and settle onto one of the benches. The pool's surface ripples with moonlight, casting dancing patterns of light onto the surrounding hedges as if the garden itself is breathing. Here, the entire pilgrimage path comes full circle. The concentric nature of the hedges and corridors has drawn you in, guided you through scents, sounds, and subtle geometry, and finally delivered you to a space of shared contemplation. You lean back, letting your shoulders relax, and feel every muscle that tightened during the walk let go in gratitude. It's a gentle reminder that reflection isn't a point you arrive at, but a state you cultivate one thoughtful step, one whispered breath at a time. And as you sit in that moonlit calm, you know the maze's true gift not a destination, but the journey itself. You pause at the threshold of a wide plaza where the hedged corridors give way to an astonishing display of geometry pathways, paved in intricate tessellations that radiate from a central star like spokes on a cosmic wheel. Each tile is laid with such precision that the seams practically vanish under moonlight, creating the illusion of walking on liquid marble. You drag your fingertip along a seam and marvel at the smooth transition of color from deep indigo to pale ivory, as though someone blended a morning sky gradient into stone. It's mesmerizing, far more elegant than any pixelated pattern on your phone's lock screen, and infinitely more tactile since there's no touchscreen interface to misinterpret your swipe. In the mid-14th century, barely a generation after Sultan Yusuf I's grand maze opening the Alhambra's master architect, Ibn al-Haytham, is said to have studied these very pavements, drawing inspiration for his treatise on optics and geometry. That scholarship rippled across Europe, influencing the Renaissance, and in 1492, when Christopher Columbus famously set sail with an astrolabe in hand, historians pointed to Andalusian geometric tradition as a seed for his navigational confidence. It's a popular historical event that binds these garden stones to world-changing voyages, reminding you that the same shapes guiding your footsteps here once guided ships across uncharted seas. As you step forward, the pattern shifts beneath your soles. Interlocking octagons give way to chevrons, then to a spiral of equilateral triangles that seem to pulse as you walk. It's like a vintage vinyl record spinning at variable speed, hypnotic, alive, and undeniably analog. A strange fact few people know: tiny astrolabe markers were secretly carved into select tiles, miniature inscriptions of star-mapped circles only aligned at dawn's first light, when a single ray of sun would dance along the groove like a precise compass needle. Those hidden cues weren't for show. They acted as surveyors' tools, helping gardeners realign hedges after winter frosts. Historians still debate whether these markers serve primarily as practical instruments or carry deeper, esoteric meanings, perhaps encoding Sufi devotional chants in geometric code. You slow your pace to take it all in, feeling the cool polish of marble press against your sandals, each footstep a soft echo that resonates up through the arches of clipped hedges. The night air is lighter here, carrying a faint metallic tang, as if the stone itself has a memory of metal tools chiseling its surface. You clench and unclench your toes, tasting the rhythm of geometry beneath your skin. It's oddly reminiscent of those fancy ergonomic keyboards that promise to align your fingers for optimal typing. Except here, the garden aligns your mind. Moving on, you duck under a low arch formed by intertwining hedges, trimmed into an ogee curve, a living counterpart to the stonework below. There's a playful harmony between flora and geometry, as though the hedges and the tiles were composed as one grand symphony. You weave through the arch and find yourself on a narrow path where the pavement's pattern breaks into a sequence of petals, 12-pointed rosettes that spin hypnotically around a central dot. A light joke flitters through your mind. It's like those kaleidoscope apps that claim to blend colors for your relaxation. But this is the real deal. No app purchase required. Ahead, a shallow basin interrupts the paving, its edge carved in concentric circles that echo the tile patterns. Water pools here only after rare rains, but even dry it shimmers under torchlight, the grooves catching tiny drops of dew. You kneel and run a fingertip across the concentric rims, imagining how a few milliliters of water would catch each groove and reflect starlight in a miniature light show. It's like dropping a single pixel that somehow illuminates an entire screen. Pushing onward, you notice a subtle shift. The granite border stones are laid at a deliberate 45-degree angle to the main grid, forming a diamond frame that guides your eye and your feet toward a hidden alcove. Garden designers use this trick to steer wanderers without words, embedding directional cues in geometry itself. It's akin to GPS voice prompts woven into the earth, turned now into the fragrance glade. You grin at the ingenuity. Your fitness tracker can't plot mental pilgrimage paths like this. In the alcove, you find a carved relief of an astrolabe suspended above a small bench. The relief's circles interlock, with the paving's patterns reinforcing the garden's celestial theme. You sit and rest your palm on the bench's cool surface, feeling the carved metal inlays brass veined through stone like a geode's golden thread. The craftsmanship is so precise that your fingertips linger on each groove as though tracing constellations on a tactile star chart. A strange fact here, some inlays were made from mined bronze alloys imported from North Africa, giving the relief a unique patina that shifts from green to gold under differing light angles. Historians still debate whether such imported metals were chosen for practical durability or as a symbolic link to the wider Islamic world. You rise and weave back into the labyrinth, the tile patterns now guiding you toward a long, narrow corridor where geometry becomes even more elaborate, a tessellation of interlaced stars and crosses that form an 8-pointed star grid. Underfoot, the tiles catch the faintest breeze through an open lattice above so that the patterns shimmer as though alive. You step lightly, feeling each shape's subtle dip, and rise as if you're walking over a carpet woven from living stone. It's tactile storytelling at its finest. As you near the crest of this geometric hill, you glance up at the lattice-work trellis, its own pattern, reflecting the floor's tessellation like a mirror image you could walk into if only the hedges permitted. A modern-day analogy pops into your head. It's like an augmented reality filter that maps your path in real time, but utterly handcrafted and impossible to uninstall. You laugh softly, marveling at how a garden built before smartphones can outperform any digital overlay. Finally, you emerge into a small courtyard where the paving forms a perfect circle, centered on a solitary cypress sapling, new growth, symbolizing the garden's living geometry and your own unfolding journey. You stand at the circle's heart, tilting your head back to trace the spiral lines that radiate outward. In that moment, you feel the full resonance of centuries of design, every tile, every hedge contour, every hidden astrolabe marker working in concert to guide, reflect, and inspire. And as you breathe in the cool night air laced with the scent of heated stone and distant orange blossom, you know that this dance of geometry and symbolism has only deepened your connection to the maze's timeless purpose to lead you inward, one calculated step at a time. You pause at the entrance to a sun-dappled courtyard, where the air shifts scented currents of jasmine and orange blossom, swirling around you like invisible silk scarves. In the mid-16th century, the first Fiesta de la Vendimia grape harvest festival spread through Andalusia every autumn, turning these very gardens into celebration grounds, where barrels rolled under arches and villagers toasted abundance with sweet wine. That popular historical event stitched communal joy into the harvest air. Tonight, You're tasting its legacy in every fragrant breeze. You step onto cool flagstones spotted with moonlight, and at once your senses awaken. The delicate aroma of jasmine drapes over your shoulders, light and floral, while the zest of orange blossom sharpens your mind like a citrus-infused espresso, yet without the caffeine jitters. Imagine standing in your kitchen with a bouquet of fresh flowers on the counter, except here the flowers bloom overhead, lining every corridor with living bouquets that demand your full attention. A strange fact few people know: Nasrid gardeners once grafted jasmine vines onto bitter orange trunks, so the blooms and fruit would flower in perfect harmony, astounding proof that medieval horticulturists experimented with botanical cross-pollination centuries before science classes made it trendy. Historians still debate whether this grafting served primarily practical pollination goals or was a purely aesthetic flourish to stun palace guests. As you wander under arching pergolas, each turn brings a new olfactory surprise. Here, clusters of night-blooming jasmine drape low their star-shaped petals, releasing scent only after dusk, practically begging you to inhale deeply. You lean forward, brushing petals between your fingers, and feel the soft fuzz on the backs of your hands. A tactile delight that outperforms any rose-scented body scrub you've tried. A light joke flits through your mind. Your expensive spa's midnight jasmine wrap sounds fancy, but can it spritz your own wrists with pure garden perfume every step you take? Probably not. Deeper in orange trees line a semicircular terrace, their boughs heavy with glossy fruit that gleams like lanterns in the soft torchlight. You catch the bittersweet tang of peel crushed underfoot, tiny droplets of essential oil bursting into the air with each step. It's like walking through a live perfume distillery, minus the industrial fumes and safety goggles. You pluck a small orange rollet in your palm until a burst of citrus mist perfumes your fingertips, then press it to your nose and inhale. The sweetness tingles your nostrils, and for a moment you can almost taste the honeyed pastries that once accompanied this scent during royal harvest feasts. A subtle wind stirs, carrying with it a distant echo of tambourines and lute strings, a remnant perhaps of harvest musicians hired to play serenades beneath the hedges. You imagine the Alhambra's courtyards filled with dancers in swirling silk feet, tapping in time with tambourines, their skirts brushing jasmine vines as they twirled. It reminds you of modern outdoor concerts where food trucks circle the lawn, except here the only snacks were figs and grapes plucked fresh from trellises, and the venue was a maze of living art. You grin at the thought. No overpriced popcorn or traffic jams, just you scent and song under a powder blue sky painted by torchlight. Turning a corner, you step into a hidden recess where an espaliered rosebush glows softly, its deep pink blooms drenched in dew. You lean in, inhaling that classic rose scent, rich, velvety, and redolent of centuries of love letters penned by sultans and scholars. It's a heady perfume that lingers on your lips long after you've moved on, like a compelling opening line you can't stop thinking about. A playful thought floats up. Modern perfume ads claim to transport you to exotic gardens. But you're already here, drifting through an olfactory wonderland without a single ad interrupting your reverie. Further on, you spy a narrow channel of water weaving through a rose-scented bed. Each ripple catches jasmine blooms floating by, sending tiny waves of scent radiating outward. You crouch, cupping a handful of water, and feel its coolness on your skin. The mingled aromas, water-washed petals, and honeysuckle tickle your senses like the gentlest ASMR whisper. It's more immersive than any spa soundtrack looped on a playlist. Here, the garden composes its own fragrant symphony in real time. As you stand, you notice the hedges themselves bristle with buds, clusters of yellow jasmine poised to open at dawn, promising a second wave of scent as the sky lightens. These seasonal orchestrations were carefully planned so that at every hour, the garden offered a fresh aromatic movement, like chapters in a scented novel. You step through a hedge tunnel and emerge into a grove of lemon trees, their citrus blooms releasing delicate floral notes with a crisp undertone. Think of it as nature's version of layering your favorite candle scents to create a bespoke home fragrance. A sudden breeze carries a waft of an unexpected plant, rosemary clipped into tight hedges running between jasmine boughs. The herb's green pin needle scent snaps through the softer florals, adding a savory counterpoint that grounds the sweetness with an herbal earthiness. You rub a sprig between your fingers, and its camphoraceous aroma clears your mind like a mental reset button. A light quip enters your thoughts. Your daily vitamin supplements promise a mind-clear boost, but this rosemary hedge delivers the same effect without the pill bottle, plus it's Instagram ready. You pause at the edge of a circular knoll where the ground dips slightly into a shallow basin. All around patches of lavender carpet, the earth, their purple spikes nodding in unison. You kneel, running hands through the lavender, and release a wave of calm that washes through your chest. It's a power you'd expect from meditation apps, charging monthly fees, yet here it comes free of cost, courtesy of the garden's living architecture. Historians still debate whether lavender beds were originally planted for medicinal retreats or simply to delight the senses, but either way they've left an indelible mark on your mood. Rising, you notice the moon has drifted across the sky and the fragrance shifts accordingly. Jasmine takes center stage now, its nocturnal scent stronger as the night deepens. You breathe in that heady perfume, letting it fill your lungs as though it were a lullaby for your nostrils. A faint echo of laughter drifts from a distant terrace, perhaps visitors sampling orange liqueur under pergolas continuing the harvest celebrations long after the sun has set. Finally, you emerge onto a raised platform where the entire garden unfolds below you like an aromatic mosaic. Hedged paths radiate outward, each lined with a distinct bloom: rosemary, jasmine, orange blossom, rose lavender, creating a scented compass that guides wanderers through the orchard of memory. You step to the center and inhale deeply, savoring every layered note as though tasting a fine wine. And though modern perfumers may bill their creations as notes in a composition, here you're living inside the composition itself, a fragrant masterpiece that tunes body and soul to the rhythm of the seasons. You step into a quieter wing of the garden where the ground feels subtly springy beneath your feet, as though the earth itself is breathing. Moonlight shimmers on damp flagstones, and you hear a distant, muted drip water flowing through secret veins beneath the surface. You kneel, brushing aside a stray jasmine petal to reveal a narrow slit in the paving, a discreet inlet to the hidden hydraulic network that has whispered beneath these mazes for over a millennium. It's like discovering a smartphone's hidden developer mode, only this mode powers fountains, nourishes hedges, and frees you from ever calling a modern plumber. In 1570, Philip II commissioned his royal engineers to integrate these very channels into the newly expanded acequia reel. ensuring that Palace Gardens stayed lush even during droughts, a popular historical event that saved countless orange trees from wilting. You trace the inlet's edge with your fingertip, feeling cool moisture seep into your skin. The faint echo of water in subterranean tunnels reminds you of the fountains you leaned over earlier. But here, the sound is deeper, a bass note to the garden's ASMR playlist. As you stand, the moonlight catches the lattice of narrow grooves leading away from the slit tiny channels, no wider than your pinky finger, cut into stone, so precisely they vanish in shadow. A strange fact few people know. Nasrid craftsmen sometimes rig goatskin bellows to pump water up through vertical shafts, lifting liquid dozens of feet without any mechanical gears. It's a bizarre precursor to our electric pumps and way more artisanal than any home improvement store solution. Historians still debate whether these methods were learned from Roman aqueducts or invented locally by Nasrid engineers. Venturing on, you find a low-arched doorway overgrown with ivy, its keystone carved into the face of a lion whose mouth once disgorged water into a subterranean basin. You crouch and shine your phone's flashlight inside, revealing a vault of interlocking stone ribs forming a miniature cistern cathedral. The ceiling drips in a gentle patter, each drop a quiet percussion that ticks like a living metronome. It's more immersive than any rain shower setting on a meditation app, and infinitely more elegant considering there's no plastic tub in sight. You lean in, resting an ear against damp stone, and feel the vibration of moving water echo through your jawbone, nature's own binaural recording. As you follow a narrow corridor lit by phosphorescent lichen patches, the tunnel widens into a chamber lined with ceramic pipes, coiled like giant serpents. These inverted siphons carried water uphill and around sharp bends, a marvel centuries before modern plumbing was dreamed of. You imagine Nasrid engineers testing flow rates by listening for pressure changes, no gauges needed, just trained ears, and the hum of liquid in motion. A light joke drifts through your mind. You wouldn't trust your morning coffee to brew without an artisan drip filter, so why not trust these medieval masters to brew moisture into your marble? Ahead, a final hatch opens into a shaded grotto, where water spills into a sunken pool before rising again through hidden vents to the fountains above. You slip off your sandals, dipping toes into the pool's cool embrace, and feel the entire garden pulse around you in a living circuit. Each heartbeat of water below meshes with the scented pathways above. Jasmine's whisper, orange blossoms zing, and rosemary's herbal zing weaving through the air. It's a full-body reminder that these subterranean irrigation secrets weren't mere engineering feats. They were deliberate acts of harmony between stone water and soul, with each drop echoing in your ears and each mirrored ripple dancing on the grotto walls. You realize the maze's true wonder, an invisible network of care woven beneath your footsteps, guiding your journey toward reflection just as thoughtfully as the hedges and fountains overhead. And as you step back through the hatch and resettle your sandals on moonlit tiles, you carry the hidden current's soothing rhythm in your bones, an undercurrent of calm that will guide you ever deeper into the garden's embrace. You slip between two towering hedges into a secluded alcove where the air carries the soft echo of laughter and the faint rustle of silk, perfect for clandestine meetings beneath a canopy of greenery, though you probably wouldn't survive a gossip scandal if your phones went off here. Your footsteps soften on the flagstone floor as you spy a mossy stone bench carved with two interlocking hearts, its surface cool beneath your palm. It's said that in 1554, during the marriage of Philip X to Mary the Fawn of England, courtly lovers flocked to these hidden nooks to steal secret moments away from watchful attendants, an event so romantic that poets penned sonnets about moonlit escapades in Granada's gardens. A strange fact, few people know some hedges were intentionally trimmed to form archways just tall enough to shield whispered embraces, creating botanical privacy screens long before window curtains existed. Historians still debate whether these living partitions were meant as romantic sanctuaries or clever traps for unsuspecting nobles caught in forbidden flings. You press your back against the hedge, inhaling the sweet tang of midnight jasmine above and the resinous perfume of cypress beside you. The scent wraps around you like a velvet cloak, far cozier than any dating app's cozy night, in filter and infinitely more authentic than your roommate's attempt to simulate mood lighting with half-melted candles. Through a narrow gap in the foliage, you glimpse the moon's reflection in a distant fountain, shimmering like a silver promise. It's easy to imagine two young hearts meeting here under starlight, hands brushing accidentally eyes, meeting across the May's laughter, mingling with water's murmur. A low bench waits in the center of this green retreat, its carved seat worn smooth by generations of secret rendezvous. You sit, letting the hedge's gentle rustle hush your thoughts, and feel a sudden pulse of excitement. This bench once cradled whispered declarations of love sealed with stolen kisses. Some locals claim that a 17th century poet, Gonzalo de Cordoba, wrote his most passionate verses here after a midnight tryst, igniting a literary craze that spread across Andalusia's salons. Yet few historians mention that he also reportedly concealed a flask of rose water beneath the bench, using it to freshen breath before each stolen meeting. Historians still debate whether that rosewater ritual was sincere courtship or merely a clever ploy to mask the taste of last night's vino. You lean forward, brushing your fingertips across the heart-shaped engravings, feeling the faint grooves that trace each lover's vow. The scent of crushed orange blossom from nearby branches drifts down in wispy tendrils, enticing you to close your eyes and imagine a playful chase through moonlit turns. It's as if the garden itself is teasing you, inviting you to wander further until you stumble upon laughter echoing from a hidden corner. A light joke flutters through your mind. If only modern dating came with built-in treasure hunts, and botanical photo ops swiping right would suddenly feel like a quest for true romance instead of dead-end chat windows. As you stand and push back through the hedges, you find yourself in a narrow passage where two cypress trunks lean inward, their branches entwined like a couple's arms. You duck beneath and emerge onto a tiny courtyard with an ancient sundial at its center, crescent moon, icons tracing its edges. This discreet meeting spot was a favorite for young noblewomen and their suitors who timed their encounters by the sundial's moon phase markers, arriving precisely when the sliver of moon cast a slender beam across the bench. It's delightfully analog. No smartwatches, required just sky and stone in perfect harmony. A strange fact, some lovers carried tiny compasses engraved with their initials to ensure they found this very spot after wandering the maze's many turns. Historians still debate whether these compasses were romantic keepsakes or practical tools for clandestine navigation. You trail your hand along the sundial's cool surface, feeling each carved notch where the moon's shadow would land. It's a tactile delight, more satisfying than any app-based moon phase tracker you've downloaded, and far more reliable when your battery dies at midnight. By the faint glow of a nearby lantern, you read the tiny inscription around the dial's rim, Amor perennis, love everlasting. It feels like a secret code, a reminder that this garden weaves human emotion into every leaf and stone. Moving on, you descend a few steps into a sunken grotto, where the hedges arch overhead, forming a leafy vault that muffles outside sounds. Here, a hidden bracket once held a silver brazier that burned aromatic resins. Cistus and pine turning smoky embers into a fragrant haze that cloaked the lover's words in mystery. You crouch to inspect the brazier's bracket, still embedded in stone rusted but resolute, and imagine the flicker of flame casting dancing shadows on entwined bodies. It's oddly comforting. Your neighbor's smoke alarm never gave you this level of discreet ambiance when you tried lighting incense in your bedroom. As you rise, you spot a small niche carved into the grotto wall, perfectly sized to hold a pair of heart-shaped mirrors that reflected candlelight across the grotto, creating an illusion of infinite pairs united in embrace. Though the mirrors are long gone, you can almost see their phantom glow glimmering against the leaves. A light quip drifts up your last Zoom date had more buffering than these infinite reflections. And none of it felt as enchanting as this murky play of light and shadow. Stepping out of the grotto, you find yourself on a narrow terrace where an intricate lattice of roses climbs along the hedges, their thorns trimmed back to reveal blossoms bright as blushing cheeks. You brush a bloom between your fingers, feeling its velvety petals, and draw its fragrance into your lungs, a rush of sweetness that feels like stolen kisses themselves. It's perfectly timed, with the gentle sigh of a breeze, as though the roses are leaning in to hear whispered secret promises. Ahead, a final arched opening leads you to a sunlit fountain court where the murmur of spouts and laughter converge. You pause at its threshold, realizing this court was both a starting and ending point for countless lovers' loops through the maze, a place to part or reunite under the watchful gaze of carved stone lions. You step forward and let the fountain's cool spray kiss your cheeks, tipping your face to the sky in playful surrender. And as you stand there, hedges rustling and moonlight twinkling off the water, you sense the echoes of centuries of courtship woven into every leaf and marble. Here, in the heart of the labyrinth, love found its rhythm in whispers and footsteps, rather than grand proclamations, an enduring testament to the garden's power to guide hearts as deftly as it guided feet. You step through a vine-choked arch and instantly feel the hush of abandonment pressing in, as if the garden itself has exhaled its last breath. The clipped cypress walls that once guided your path are now ragged silhouettes against the sky, their pruned edges overrun by wild shoots that tangle like unruly hair. Underfoot, flagstones once polished to a mirror sheen lie cracked and mottled, sprouting clumps of moss that betrayed decades without a gardener's sandal. You inhale deeply, tasting the dusty tang of decayed leaves and damp earth, a melancholic perfume that no luxury candle can replicate. In 1570, the French writer François de Belforest wandered these same corridors and quaked at the sight of fountains choked with reeds and pathways swallowed by brambles. His letters home described a once splendid maze now weeping with neglect, an image that spread through European salons and sealed these gardens' reputation as a lost world. You can almost hear his quills scratching across parchment, each word a lament for vanished fountains and silent roses. You pause by a collapsed marble basin, its rim cracked in several places, and run a fingertip along its edge. The stone feels rough and pitted like weathered skin, and you half expect a spring of water to bubble up, but only dry leaves rattle in the breeze. You lean closer, catching the faint echo of trickling water somewhere deep beneath the rubble, a ghostly murmur that would have once soothed wandering souls. Now it reminds you of sipping lumpy instant coffee, a promise of refreshment long since lost. Along a narrow corridor, shards of Zelig mosaic peek through layers of dirt. Their deep blues and greens glint faintly like memories refusing to fade completely. You stoop to scoop up a tile fragment, its broken corner revealing dozens of microscopic layers, years of paint, then plaster, then the original tile below. It's a strange fact few people notice in the 19th century. A local schoolmaster discovered tiny Arabic verses etched into hidden panels beneath the mosaic poems praising the fleeting beauty of blossoms. Those inscriptions survived centuries of neglect simply because no feet trod on that corner, proof that even in ruin the garden held onto its secrets. You stand and brush dirt from your fingertips, then press your back against a leaning hedge whose once precise top is now wildly overgrown. Its fragrance, once a heady blend of jasmine and orange blossom, has given way to a musty undertone as though the air itself mourns what's been lost. You let out a soft chuckle at the thought that your overpriced mood mist can't hold a candle to this authentic atmosphere of decay, complete with free ambient crackle sounds, courtesy of snapping twigs. Moving on, you enter a sunken glade where a central fountain once bloomed with marble spouts. Now, the basin is empty, cracked into spiderweb patterns, and the plinth at its center tilts precariously. Ivy drapes around its base like a funeral shroud. You step into the basin carefully, of course, to avoid twisting an ankle and feel the cool dampness seeping through your shoes. The sensation is surprisingly grounding, like dipping toes into a forgotten swimming pool, a gentle shock to remind you that even in ruin, there's something alive. You climb out and follow a narrow step worn smooth by centuries of footfall. It leads to a garden terrace where planters once overflowed with roses. Now, only skeletal stalks remain, their thorns sharper than any modern security system, though far less helpful at deterring moths and mice. You stray a hand along a brittle stem, wincing as the dry thorns bite, a tactile reminder that neglect has a sting all its own. Ahead, a tiled alcove offers relief from the overgrowth. A collapsed pergola still shelters a stone bench carved with faded arabesques. You settle onto its cool seat and close your eyes, letting the silence envelop you. In that hush, you can almost hear distant bird song and faint laughter carried on wind-whipped echoes, phantom traces of courtly promenades and whispered confidences beneath the hedges. You rise and wander toward a half-submerged channel where water once coursed freely. Now it runs in fits and starts a thin trickle that catches on leaves before vanishing into the soil. You dip a finger in and taste the metallic tang of iron-rich silt, a stark contrast to the sweet purity you sampled earlier. It's a bracing reminder that time can corrode even the clearest springs. As you follow the channel's path, you notice where stone lintels have cracked, letting daylight carve jagged patterns between hedges. Here, sunlight seems hesitant, as though the garden itself is embarrassed by its state. You laugh softly at the ironic ambition of those medieval engineers. They built hydraulic marvels to tame nature, and yet all it took was a few decades of disregard to let plants reclaim their domain. At the maze's edge, you emerge beneath a grand horseshoe arch whose keystone bears the faded emblem of a sultan. The emblem's lines are so worn they resemble a modern graffiti tag, abstract and open to interpretation. You press your palm against the arch's cool curve and close your eyes, absorbing the weight of centuries. It's a silent handshake between past and present, a reminder that even in neglect, these stones endure. You step beyond the arch and look back one last time. The hedged walls loom as ever, but now they seem heart-rendingly vulnerable. Green ramparts succumbing to time's quiet siege. You breathe in the pungent mix of earth moss and dying blooms, letting the garden's bittersweet aroma anchor you in the moment. Historians still debate whether this prolonged abandonment stemmed from deliberate erasure of the Islamic legacy or simply from the crown's inability to maintain such an elaborate retreat. Whatever the reason, the decay has revealed a new layer of beauty, the poignant poetry of impermanence etched in cracked marble, mossy tiles, and tangled vines. And as you step away, the garden's silent testimony lingers in your bones, a gentle admonition that all grandeur is fleeting, but memory endures. You step through a low iron gate into a scene that feels lifted from a sepia-toned postcard, sunlight filtering through newly pruned hedges, fountains restored to their gentle murmur, and tiles gleaming as though polished by loving hands. In 1834, an English travel writer named Emily Chambers published a lavishly illustrated account of the Alhambra's forgotten gardens, sparking a romantic revival that drew poets, painters, and aristocrats back into these winding corridors after centuries of decline. You can almost hear the rustle of crinolines as early visitors promenaded beneath painted archways, feverish with the thrill of rediscovery, much like Instagram influencers flocking to a newly found street art mural. Only here, the art is living and centuries old. The air is different now, a brighter perfume of jasmine and citrus balanced by the crisp scent of fresh lavender lining the paths. You inhale deeply, savoring the layered bouquet like a sommelier sampling vintage wine. A light joke flits through your mind. You'd kill for a home diffuser that could replicate this exact blend, no subscription required. Around you, gardeners in linen smocks tend to rose bushes and cull stray brambles, the soft snip of pruning shears punctuating the air like whispered annotations in a manuscript. You wander toward a newly unearthed excavation site where mosaic fragments are being carefully pieced into rings of emerald and sapphire. Beneath a protective canopy, a dusty watercolor on display captures the garden as it appeared before Chambers' expedition, hedges wild yet graceful, fountains half buried but still singing. This obscure painting, rumored to have surfaced in a private Paris collection only in 1902, shows details invisible today: a circular grotto tucked behind a stand of myrtle and a stone bench shaped like a crescent moon. Strange fact that watercolor was once dismissed as a fanciful forgery until infrared analysis in 1978 revealed authentic cinnabar pigments from Nasrid-era palettes, a discovery that reopened debates about its provenance. Historians still debate whether the painting was based on eyewitness sketches by Chamber herself or on an earlier manuscript lost in the Andalusian archives. You press your palm against a restored marble column, feeling its cool, radiant surface under your fingertips as though electricity pulsed through the stone. The column's fluting is so crisp you could map its grooves like a fingerprint, a tactile connection to artisans who once carved beside torchlight. You quip that surviving a 19th century revival craze must have been tougher than surviving your last Wi-Fi outage out here. There's no buffering, only continuity between past and present. A gentle breeze stirs the lattice of jasmine overhead, and you close your eyes to let the soft rustle wash over you. It's a natural ASMR moment, far more immersive than any binaural recording, no headphones necessary, just the living architecture of foliage and fragrance. You follow the sound of a distant lute part of an afternoon-long concert reenacting Chambers' descriptions and find musicians perched on a stone balustrade, their notes drifting over hedged walls like a sweet echo of romantic-era reverie. Further along, you discover the Poet's Alcove, a semicircle of benches newly carved from local marble, each inscribed with epigrams by 19th century Andalusian poets who extolled the garden's rebirth. You pull a bench back and settle in, brushing off a fine layer of white dust that doubles as a souvenir of restoration work. The bench's inscription reads, "Here the soul rediscovers wings." You trace the flowing script with your finger, smiling at the idea that a simple seat could launch 1,000 metaphors. Above you, the lattice of cypress and orange hedges has been carefully retrained in geometric patterns, mirroring the tilework below, a revival of Mukarna's-inspired motifs that had once been lost. The precision is dazzling, so exact that it rivals any 3D printed topiary you've seen online. Yet, this was achieved by hand, guided by a 19th century horticulturist's notebooks, rediscovered by Chamber, filled with ink blot hedgehog sketches and aromatic recipes for pruning oils. You pause to sniff a droplet of orange oil, warm, tangy, and redolent of both tradition and renewal, thinking that modern cocktail bars could learn a thing or two about botanical infusion from these pages. Overhead, the late afternoon sun casts lacy shadows on the promenade, and you stride toward the whispering wall, a long hedged tunnel where sound arcs in a remarkable echo. It was documented in Chambers' travelogue as a place where whispered poems could be heard 3 quarters away, a medieval megaphone before electronic microphones existed. You cup your hands around your mouth and recite a single line, "Memory blooms where silence grows." Instantly, the words travel bouncing off living walls, arriving far down the maze with a clarity that startles you. It's as thrilling as finding a hidden Bluetooth speaker synced across kilometers. But here, the walls themselves compose the acoustic magic. As you emerge into a sunlit clearing, a restored fountain crowned by a floral mosaic spurts pure water once more, its gentle cascade a living tribute to the revivalist's dedication. You scoot to its edge, fingertips skimming the surface, and feel the refreshing coolness ripple through your skin, a baptism in the garden's renewal. Around you, visitors pause to dip their hand, share laughter, and photograph every angle as though each snapshot were a talisman against oblivion. Moving on, you pass a series of newly planted wildflower beds, poppies, irises, and saffron crocuses, chosen to echo the Nasrid palette and sustain pollinators revived after decades of absence. The riot of color is a jubilant contrast to the muted tones of decline you left behind. You kneel to examine a crocus bloom, its petals as delicate as trimmed paper, and inhale a sweet, earthy aroma that feels like hope spray painted across the garden's canvas. Finally, you arrive at a terrace overlooking the restored palace walls, the labyrinth's hedged corridors, stretching like living brushstrokes across the landscape. You stand at the balustrade, feeling the afternoon warmth on your face and listening to the intertwined symphony of water music and birdsong. In this moment, you understand that the Romantic Revival was more than an aesthetic movement. It was a collective heartbeat that awakened forgotten wonders, bridging centuries of neglect with a fervent belief in beauty's resilience. And as you gaze out over the verdant maze, you carry with you the sense that renewal, like memory, is a living force, ever ready to bloom again, one devoted hand at a time. You step onto a freshly raked gravel pathway that winds in gentle loops around a modern meditation labyrinth, the stones crunching softly beneath your sneakers like ASMR whispers for your souls. This isn't a palace garden, but a contemporary park dedicated to mindfulness, where people trade yoga mats for wandering feet and corporate anonymity for silent reflection. It's part of the global wellness wave that peaked around 2015, when mindful walking became a buzzword on every health blog and event so popular that city councils scrambled to install labyrinths in public parks faster than you can say home. As you follow the wide sandy track, you notice herbs, mint, lavender, and lemongrass planted along the outer edges. With each step, gentle breezes release their aroma, creating a natural aromatherapy trail that costs you nothing more than attention. It's like a free subscription to a deluxe spa service, minus the awkward small talk with your esthetician. A light joke flickers through your mind. Who knew you could binge on sensory luxury without swiping your credit card or worrying about your data plan? Ahead, the path narrows into a corkscrew loop where smooth river stones have been set into the ground, offering a built-in reflexology foot massage if you dare kick off your shoes. Every pebble press sends tiny pulses up your arches, waking nerves you didn't know were on vacation. It's a DIY foot spa, no pedicure appointment required, though you might need to schedule some after realizing you've been wearing flip-flops for 3 months. Around the next bend, you encounter a series of low wooden benches, each topped with a singing bowl and mallet. Visitors have the option to pause, strike the bowl, and let its deep hum reverberate through the hedged enclosure. The sound washes over you like warm honey, a resonant lullaby that harmonizes with the gentle chirp of birds overhead. A strange fact, few people know the frequency of these bowls often hovers around 136.1 hertz. The so-called frequency, believed by enthusiasts to align with the Earth's natural resonance. Historians still debate whether Himalayan monks originally tuned these bowls for spiritual rites or simply discovered them as a byproduct of metal smelting experiments in the 12th century. You move on to a shaded stretch lined with bamboo groves, whose tall stalks sway and collide in the breeze, creating a soft, woody rattle that feels like nature's own white noise machine. It's a soothing backdrop for your wandering thoughts, far more peaceful than the static hum of your office's HVAC system. You pause to close your eyes and let the sound envelop you, an organic lullaby that no podcast can match. Midway through the labyrinth, you reach a clearing where a circle of smooth stones surrounds a shallow water basin. Visitors are invited to cast a single pebble into the center, marking their intentions for the walk. You pluck a small heart-shaped pebble from your pocket proof, that you're one of those people who still carry rocks around for unknown reasons and drop it in. The splash is tiny but decisive, vibrating through the water in concentric ripples that mirror the meditative loops you've walked. It's almost like a ceremonial tweet sent into the pond's network, reminding you that sometimes small gestures carry the loudest meaning. Further along, the gravel gives way to a wooden deck bordered by ornamental grasses whose feathery plumes brush your ankles like giant soft focus brushes. The grasses whisper in unison, creating a living brushstroke across the boardwalk. You lean forward, trailing fingers through the cool blades, and feel a ticklish thrill that reminds you of running your hand through wet paint, delightful, messy, and oddly grounding. A playful thought crosses your mind. If Instagram filters worked in real life, this would be the golden hour meadow preset, no editing needed. As the path spirals inward, the labyrinth walls rise into sculpted hedges, nearly shoulder height, trimmed into smooth, sinuous curves that guide you toward the silent center. The air grows stiller here, the only sound your own breathing and the distant murmur of a small speaker playing Tibetan chants at whisper volume, enough to tune your mind without breaking the silence. You pause at the threshold of the innermost circle and close your eyes, placing both hands on your heart as though you're pressing a start button on your inner calm. In the heart of the maze lies a simple stone pedestal holding an etched plaque. Here stillness finds you. You step onto the pedestal's smooth surface, feeling its cool solidity beneath your feet. The world beyond the hedges falls away, leaving only your own heartbeat as the soundtrack. It's a powerful reminder that in an age of constant pings and algorithmic nudges, real silence is a rare gift, one you didn't have to pay extra for. You retrace your steps outward, the labyrinth's loops gradually untwining in your mind, and each bend brings new perspective. That pebble-tagged water basin now looks like a small universe. Those singing bowls echo with the hum of possibility, and the bamboo choir sounds like the earth breathing. A light quip surfaces. You've done a 30-minute yoga flow before, but nothing stretched your mind the way this simple walk did. Exiting the maze, you find a small kiosk offering free herbal tea samplings. You accept a cup of spearmint lavender blended steam spiraling upward like a silent victory flag. You sip, feeling the warmth slide down your throat, mingling with the calm you've cultivated. Around you, fellow wanderers share quiet smiles, no small talk, just a mutual nod that says, yes, this worked. As you step away, the labyrinth's hedged walls recede into the distance, but their imprint remains in your mind, a living blueprint for reflection that you can carry everywhere. In a world where meditation apps promise instant calm, this garden offers an analog antidote, a path drawn in earthstone and living green, guiding you gently back to yourself, one mindful step at a time. You step into a quiet clearing where the hedges part to reveal a sleek workstation of translucent screens and scanning towers, a digital atelier nestled amid living green. It feels like stumbling onto a secret command center for botanical engineers rather than a centuries-old garden, though you probably won't survive the tech jargon if someone starts discussing LiDAR protocols without a glossary. Tonight, you're witnessing the latest phase of restoration VR mapping and laser scanning that capture every leaf, tip tile seam, and hidden water channel in breathtaking detail. A hushed hum rises as the scanning rig rotates its lasers dancing across hedge walls to build a 3D model with millimeter accuracy. You watch on a nearby tablet while technicians adjust point cloud density, and it strikes you as a high-tech echo of ancient artisans tracing arabesque motifs by hand under torchlight. This moment parallels the first public demo of Google Street View in 2007, a popular tech milestone that wowed city explorers only here. The street is a maze of living sculpture, and the view is a digital archive for future caretakers. A strange fact, few people know some of the scanner's infrared pulses inadvertently pick up heat signatures from mole tunnels, revealing hidden rodent highways beneath the pathways. Historians still debate whether these subterranean maps should be integrated into the garden archives or discreetly filtered out of the public-facing model. You lean closer to a holographic projection of the garden floating in midair. Tiny colored dots drift over hedges, fountains, and tiles, each hue representing a different restoration layer: olive green for original Moorish layout, amber for Romantic era additions, azure for modern mindfulness paths. It's as immersive as any AR game you've swiped through, only this one doesn't distract you from your real feet touching the ground. You extend your hand and touch a floating node, causing the system to zoom into a 19th century pruning plan that shows precisely how hedges were trimmed during the Romantic revival. You quip that if only your digital photo albums were this informative, you'd finally know which of your childhood selfies were taken at that botched family reunion. Beyond the AR display, you spot a bank of 3D printers quietly whirring beneath a protective canopy. One unit is extruding living hedge ink, a biodegradable bioresin seeded with boxwood cuttings designed to print replacement hedge sections layer by layer. This curious fusion of robotics and botany feels like a sci-fi dream come true. No more hand-snipping rogue branches, just code-driven topiary growth. You imagine downloading a hedge trimming app and watching your garden sculpt itself while you binge-watch your favorite series, though you suspect your Wi-Fi signal would chafe at such bandwidth demands. A technician hands you a lightweight headset and invites you to walk through the original 14th century maze in VR. Slip it on and suddenly you're surrounded by towering hedges, scented with morning dew fountains singing with natural acoustics and tile work so crisp you could swear you could feel the marble under your palms. You turn slowly, ears attuned to the soundscape water, dripping leaves rustling, and it's more immersive than any theme park ride you've braved. A light joke pops into your mind. Your last roller coaster trip was fun, but it didn't offer this level of horticultural authenticity without the threat of motion sickness. The VR experience pauses on a section labeled astrolabe markers, and the system overlays animated star maps onto hedged walls, showing you precisely how medieval gardeners aligned those carved symbols with celestial events. You step forward in virtual space and place your hand on a glowing star, triggering an audio narration that explains Nasrid astrological calendars. It's a flawless integration of scholarship and spectacle, far more engaging than reading dusty manuscripts in a castle archive. You sip a breath of real air and detect the faint scent of orange blossom diffused by discreet misting nozzles, bridging the digital and physical worlds in seamless continuity. When you remove the headset, you see a researcher working with drone footage to stitch together thermal imaging data, revealing subsurface water channels that once powered hidden fountains. The technician points out sections where soil moisture anomalies align perfectly with medieval hydraulic blueprints, evidence that ancient engineers knew far more about subterranean flow than anyone gave them credit for. Strange fact, one unmapped channel was discovered under a hedgerow, leading to a tiny alcove you walked through in Section 10, proving that even secret courtship corners had dedicated irrigation lines. Historians still debate how pervasive these hidden conduits were across Andalusian estates, whether they were unique to royal gardens or standard in every wealthy villa. You wander to a touchscreen kiosk displaying a timeline slider, drag it across centuries, and watch the garden's layout morph in fluid animation hedges, sprout fountains, vanish, pathways rearrange, and modern meditation trails appear like botanical afterthoughts. It's a living history book more dynamic than any pop-up exhibit in a museum. You slide to the present day to reveal planned digital restoration heat mapping benches, to detect visitor-aware predictive modeling that suggests which hedge segments need reinforcement next season, and AI-driven growth simulations that forecast how new plantings will interact with existing architecture over decades. A final station offers a time capsule VR mode, letting you plant a virtual sapling in the digital model and watch it grow over simulated centuries, its branches weaving through hedges, its roots coaxing soil into new mosaic patterns. You chuckle at the playful thought of leaving a digital legacy for future gardeners. Here lies my pixelated tribute, may it flourish in the code. It's a fitting modern twist on the centuries of garden care you've witnessed, proof that human creativity still thrives at the intersection of nature and technology. As you remove your VR headset and step back into the moonlit maze, the real hedges feel both ancient and futuristic, each leaf whispering of hand snips and code writes alike. You inhale the rich scent of living green, marveling that these digital tools aren't replacing tradition, but amplifying it, ensuring that every hidden channel, every intricate pattern, and every scent-laden corridor will endure for generations, yet to wander. And as you walk on the garden's whispers, shift seamlessly between vine and virtual icon, guiding you onward toward the labyrinth's next secret. You find yourself in a pocket of emerald calm where hedges part to reveal a circular clearing bathed in moonlight, its center marked by a low, moss-softened stone bench that invites you to settle in for one final reflection. The air here feels almost sacred, weighted with the whisper of jasmine and the distant murmur of water flowing through aqueducts you traced earlier. You ease onto the bench, brushing aside a few fallen petals. Remember those rosewater droplets that once perfumed each step, and lean back, cradled by centuries of living architecture. Above you, the lattice of cypress and orange branches weaves a dappled canopy that shelters this hushed arena. A gentle breeze sighs through, carrying the faint trill of a nightingale, hidden somewhere in the greenery, a living lullaby, far more enchanting than your city's car alarms at dawn. You close your eyes and let the scent of crushed lavender from the meditation maze drift in, with the jasmine blending into a calming duet that brushes your senses like a soft caress. In 1984, UNESCO designated the Alhambra, and with it, these very gardens, a World Heritage Site, a modern recognition that sparked a renewed wave of conservation so fervent it felt like breathing life into stone and soil alike. Today's restoration teams draw inspiration from that landmark decision, ensuring these reflective corridors endure for generations of wanderers seeking solitude. That collective effort echoes your own quiet pilgrimage tonight, each breath a testament to renewal. A strange fact few people realize is that Medieval gardeners once tucked tiny glass beads into the soil at hedge bases, convinced that the beads' sparkle would startle rodents and protect young shoots. Historians still debate whether those beads held spiritual, talismanic meaning, tokens of divine protection, or simply served as primitive pest control. Either way, you sense their hidden legacy in every glint of moonlight on fallen hedge beads, sparkling like whispered secrets at your feet. You reach out and trail a fingertip along the bench's worn edge, feeling the smooth polish of centuries of visitors who paused here, courtiers in silken robes, pilgrims bearing candlelight, romantic poets scribbling verses in leather-bound journals, and anxious meditators seeking solace from the world's clamor. In this moment, you're part of that continuum, an unwritten chapter in the garden's living anthology. Above the bench's backrest, the hedges form a semicircular vault that amplifies the softest sounds. You clear your throat and let out a single gentle SSH, and the sound returns to you, a tender echo that falls around your shoulders like a whispered lullaby. It's an ASMR moment woven not from electronics, but from leaf and air, a reminder that true comfort often grows from the simplest elements. You close your eyes and let your breathing slow, each inhale gathering the garden's layered fragrances, each exhale releasing tension into the night. The air feels warmer here, as though the earth itself is offering a final embrace before your departure. You remember the crunch of gravel under your sneakers in the meditation maze, the tactile press of reflexology stones on your soles, the holographic whispers of digital restoration, all paths that led you to this shared sanctuary of stillness. A single stray breeze stirs a cascade of orange blossoms overhead, and you feel a gentle patter of petals drifting onto your upturned palms. You rub them between your fingers, the texture like soft tissue, and bring one to your nose for one last inhalation, a closing benediction of scent. It's a lullaby of aroma, bitter orange, sweet jasmine, sun-warmed lavender, and earth's soft undercurrent. As your eyelids grow heavy, you imagine the garden's pathways stretching outward in endless loops of green and stone, each one a promise of reflection waiting to be rediscovered. You feel your senses soften, your thoughts unfurl like petals at dawn, and your heartbeat align with the gentle rhythm of hidden water channels whispering beneath the marble floors. Now, in this final hush, you release your last conscious breath into the night, trusting that the garden's memory encoded in hedges, tiles, and ancient beams will cradle you even as you drift beyond awareness. The moonlight lingers on your shoulders, a final brushstroke of silver that fades into soft darkness, and you welcome the enveloping quiet as your own private lullaby. Good night.